So, sehr geehrte Damen und Herren, herzlich willkommen zurück am Stücke bei Lamplight. Es ist eine Weile her, dass ich aufnehmen konnte. Kam mal hier und da was dazwischen und vom Nachbarn hier ist der Herd kaputt gegangen. Dann kam Miezekatze dazwischen, die hat sich den Schwanz verstaucht. Beim Nachbarn hat es auch ein bisschen gedauert, weil er ist rübergegangen, überprüft, bla, Herd kaputt. Das heißt, der Herd doch nicht kaputt. Herd vorgezogen, yay, Herdanschlussdose weggeschmolzen. Ja, weggeschmolzen. Die Herdanschlussdose, die war RIP. Das war schön Plastikgetropfe, war GGBP Easy Z. Dann hat Katze sich Schwanz verstaucht. Waren wir erstmal bei Tier, da haben wir mich schon um Katze kümmern müssen, weil Katze konnte nicht auf Couch liegen, Katze konnte da nicht hin, Katze konnte da nicht hin und bla, oh Gott, das war Hölle. Arme Bella-Maus. Wird aber gerade wieder besser. Und am Samstag ich so, yay, Aufnahme, ich komme hinterher wieder. Ja, Bullshit war's. Mescher so, Buggi, nur eine Lampe, bitte. Daraus wurden 3 und 6 Stunden Arbeit. Dankeschön. Deswegen verzeiht bitte, dass jetzt gestern, also ja gestern am 5.11. am Montag keine Folge kam. Es tut mir leid. Können wir noch mit der reden? Mit dem Barmädchen? Ich glaube ja.
Excuse me, barmaid?
Hi, what do you need?
Hey, was willst du, Monika? Auswurfregeln. Achso, warte mal. Ach, das war's. Ja. Jetzt können wir, ja, nee, kapiert, das können wir zu Oma wieder. Wo war Oma Lieschen? Wir können ins Parlament.
Fordham, what brings you to this delightful spectacle?
Ach so, da waren wir noch nicht, okay.
Hello, Edwards. I'm investigating the Justice Killer. I believe I've got a very promising lead.
I heard an officer mention new orders from Snelling, but I thought he was just pulling my leg. Feel free to have a look around. I'm just writing up the notes from my initial examination of the body, so I'll be happy to share my findings.
Good. I'll just get started then.
Okay. Blut?
Looks pretty fresh. I wonder what the killer uses to write with.
Mit einem Pinsel oder so hätte ich gesagt. Schubladen? Was gibt's da?
Nothing but a bunch of boring documents. You'd think he could have at least been considerate enough to keep something scandalous in here.
Na, der ist gut, der Mann. Der lässt nix.
The
Körper.
former Percival McDonough, being a good politician.
Schweigsam. Hehehe. Kalender.
Nothing has been written in yet for next month. Curious.
Ja.
Nothing has been... Odd. The page for this month has been torn out. You suppose Edwards might know anything about that?
Ich denke, dass der Dieb einen Termin bei, oder der Mörder einen Termin bei ihm hatte.
Odd. The page for this month...
Wer?
Odd. The page...
Edwards, das war er, ja, der da. Weil, ich vermute schon stark.
History books and political theory. I might die of boredom. Again.
Weil, wie gesagt, meine Vermutung ist ja ganz stark, da hat einen Termin mit ihm gehabt und hat die Seite rausgerissen, damit kein Verdacht auf ihn kommt, logischerweise.
Leave it to a politician to hang a portrait of himself in his own office.
Ja, verstehe ich auch nicht, wie man das machen kann, keine Ahnung.
No signs of forced entry that I can see. The murderer didn't come in through this window.
Ja, Edwards.
Got a moment, Edwards?
Of course, what's on your mind?
Tatort.
So, what was found at the crime scene?
A dead body.
Edwards.
Hey, just trying to lighten the mood a bit. Anyway, there was also the word justice written in blood, as you can see on the floor there.
Is that all?
What more do you need? All the pieces are in place. This is the work of the Justice Killer.
Der Leichnam selber.
What did your examination of the body turn up?
Apparent cause of death was a single gunshot to the head, exactly like all the other victims. The bullet is still lodged in his brain. I'll remove it once I transport the body back to the mortuary.
Anything else?
No personal effects of note, just a folded up piece of paper in his breast pocket.
Zusammengefaltet ist. Ah.
It's blank, so the police weren't interested. I assume you aren't either.
Never assume, Edwards. I'll take it if you don't mind.
Be my guest.
Okay, interessant. Das ist noch interessant für uns sein, polizeiliche Ermittlungen.
Did the police manage to learn anything during their investigation?
Not much beyond what I've already told you. I think they were planning on speaking to the victim's wife, though.
Okay.
Did you get the address?
I did, as a matter of fact. 1820 Kent Place.
Okay, dankeschön.
Now we get to deal with the grieving widow. Hopefully the officers who delivered the news got the worst of it.
Hoffe ich auch. Osterlilie.
Did you find an Easter lily anywhere?
An Easter lily?
Yes. The justice killer leaves one at every crime scene.
Is that right? I never noticed.
Neither did anyone else, apparently.
Solche Stimmbau. Ach, das auf so ein wichtiges Detail nicht.
So how does leaving a lily at the scene of the crime figure into all of this?
I'm still trying to figure that out, but I think it might be important to understanding his motive.
Well, be sure to let me know if you do figure it out. The thought process of killers is a twisted, curious thing.
Justice Killer selbst.
What's your take on this whole justice killer situation?
It's giving me a lot of extra work, let me tell you. We haven't had a serial murderer in a long time. Not since that fellow who was poisoning people about 10 years ago.
Ah, yes. Gascon Ghoul. Now there was a case.
Any theories or insights regarding the killer's motive or identity?
That's not really my specialty. If you want to get into that psychology stuff, you're better off talking to someone like Snelling.
Ah, nö. Lieber Snelling.
Does it feel good to be out of the office?
As long as I have the chance to examine a body and learn something in the process, I don't care where I am. Though I do admit a preference to working in my own environment. Fieldwork can be a bit uncertain. There's so much more potential for contamination, especially with those clumsy officers trouncing about groping everything. Present company excluded, of course.
Kalender noch
Edwards,
kurz.
did you notice McDonough's desk calendar?
I did. This month has been torn out. I asked the officers investigating the scene, and they had no idea what happened to it.
So it wasn't found in this room?
That's right. My theory is that the killer took it.
Which means there was probably something incriminating written on it. If only there was some way of knowing what it was.
Miles, have you forgotten the oldest trick in the book? Just find a pencil and you'll have that information in no time.
Bleistift.
Edwards, do you have a pencil I might borrow?
Of course. Take this one.
Thank you.
Stimmt, der alte Pinseldreck.
That's all for now, Edwards.
Good luck with your investigation.
Danke, weil kennt ja jeder. Bleistifttrick, wenn man irgendwo was draufschreibt, dann drückt man ihn automatisch, ne? Wenn man dann herkommt und mit einem Bleistift soft drüber fährt, kann man die Konturen lesen. Kalender.
Classic trick. Let's see if it works.
So, was ich gedrückt halte, ja. Ich hoffe, verkackt ist jetzt. Ah. Sehr schön. So, wo noch? Hä? Rabbi, 8 Uhr.
Aha! McDonough met with this person the night of the murder. I'll bet 500 crowns it's a false name, but at least it's something.
McDonough. Rabbi, okay. Alles noch ein bisschen voll aus hier. Gibt's hier noch irgendwo was?
Intriguing. I wonder if this is the same Ruby the girl at the coffee house mentioned.
Ah. Gut. Da haben wir es jetzt. Sehr schön. Hat
No
er noch
time to
was?
waste with further conversation right now. You've got a killer to find.
Ja, 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 ja. Wir speichern mal kurz zwischen. So, Karte. McDonoughs Wohnung. Denke mal kurz dahin. Reden noch mit der Oma. Vielleicht hat ihr noch Informationen für uns, wäre schön.
Ah, Mr. Fordham. Thank you so much for getting Kurt back home.
Don't mention it. Now, would you be willing to answer some questions?
Well, yes, of course.
Dankeschön, Omi. Burley Coast.
Tell me what you know about Burley Cause.
He and his wife hadn't been living next door very long, maybe 4 months or so. But I didn't talk to either of them very much. They weren't interested in being neighborly, I guess. It's a shame, really. Maybe if we had known one another better, something like this could have been prevented.
Modern Burley Coast.
What happened on the day Mr. Cause was killed?
I was here, at home, doing my knitting as usual. All of a sudden, I heard a loud bang. It sounded like a gunshot. I went and knocked on Mrs. Cause's door, but there was no answer. I did notice a smell, though, like flowers.
Ah ja.
Something seemed wrong, so I decided to report the incident to the police. Not long after that, an officer showed up and started asking questions. Awful man he was, so rude. I gotta report him, but I forgot his name. I think it started with a P.
Ah ja, mit dem P.
Parsons?
Yes, that's him. He called for some more officers and they got into the apartment. That's when I found out Mr. Cause had been murdered.
From Burley Cross.
Where is Mrs. Cause now?
I don't know, with her mother maybe. That's usually how it goes.
You wouldn't happen to know where that is, would you?
Afraid not, but there is one other thing.
Yes?
Don't say I told you this, but, well, I used to hear the two of them through my wall. I tried ignoring it since it's really none of my business, but it became impossible.
Oh, es wird interessant.
What was it you heard?
I don't believe they had a happy marriage. They'd have awful fights a couple times a week.
What would they fight about?
Oh, all sorts of things. The worst one was when she discovered he was going to a brothel. I think he might have hit her on a few occasions, too, but I can't be certain. I hope you don't think me a horrible old gossip, but I thought you might like to know.
Not at all. I'm glad you told me.
Interessant. Justice Killer?
Are you familiar with the Justice Killer?
You mean the serial killer who's been killing men in Chumley?
That's the one.
Nah, never heard of him.
What?
I'm just pulling your leg, Mr. Fordham.
I like this one. She's got spirit.
Sie hat Feuer, ja genau.
Unfortunately, I only know what I've read in the Gazette, but it's scary to think some maniac is loose on the streets doing such terrible things. And with Kurt going out by himself for hours at a time, oh, I don't like it one bit.
Und über sie selbst, Mrs. Omi.
How long have you been living here?
Well, Kurt and I moved in shortly after we were married, so it's been about 34 years.
Goodness, that's a long time to be living in one place.
Yes, well, the building may be a bit run down, and it gets colder than cold in the winter, but the rent has always been cheap. You can't really ask for much more than that.
I appreciate your time, Mrs. Williamson.
Have a good day, Mr. Fordham.
Kein Problem.
The number is a bit faded. Is this 2B or is it not 2B? That's the question.
Tür, waren wir dann schon drin?
There doesn't seem to be anyone at home.
Ah, stimmt, konnten wir ja nicht rein, so war's. So, dann gehen wir mal zu ihr, zu Mrs. Donners Wohnung.
What? Who are you?
I'm Miles Fordham, private investigator. Your butler just announced me.
Oh, of course. Forgive me. I was just, well, never mind. Please make yourself comfortable, Mr. Fordham.
Thank you, Mrs. McDonough.
Ah ja. Was gibt's hier?
Just a painting of some boring old aristocrat. Lord Alfred Edward Shufflebottom the Wise comes to mind when looking at this one.
Ah ja, wer immer das ist, keine Ahnung. Porträt?
This one looks like a Lady Camilla Prudence Wigglewaddle the Grey.
Das sieht aus wie der von der Mozart-Schokolade.
A think I'll call this one Lord Edmund Henry Lickspittle the Elder.
Der hat Sorgen. Ausgang, Schnickschnack.
They look expensive, but I bet they're totally worthless. I feel sorry for the sucker who has to clean them.
Ah ja. Schnickschnack,
They look
Schnickschnack.
expensive.
Gut. Weiter mal noch ein Bild.
Surely this one was called Lady Felicity Euphemia Beaversnatch the Simple.
Feuer,
They look
Schnickschnack.
expensive, but I bet...
Ja, da haben wir noch ein Bild. Ansonsten gibt's ja nichts, da können wir noch mit Omi reden. Mrs. McDonough.
I appreciate you seeing me, Mrs. McDonough. I know you must be going through a difficult time right now.
What exactly is it you want from me, Mr. Fordham? I already spoke to the police about my husband's murder.
I just have a few questions of my own.
Oh, very well.
So, Percival McDonough.
What can you tell me about your husband?
I'll tell you the same thing I told the police, Mr. Fordham. Percival was one of the hardest working members of Parliament. He took his job extremely seriously. The recent election caused him a terrible amount of consternation, as I'm sure it did most people. He took Atwood's loss rather hard.
Did you see much of him?
I beg your pardon?
Surely someone with such an important position in government could find themselves consumed by their work. Did he spend much time at home?
He made it a point to come home and have dinner with me every night, even if he had to return to the office afterwards.
And did that happen often?
At least 3 or 4 times in a week, yes. He'd stay in his office working late into the night. As I said, he was very dedicated to his role.
Sounds to me like she's quite dedicated to hers too.
Ja, das stimmt allerdings. Oh, Mr. Jimmy ist weggegangen. Uiuiui, ist mal endlich Platz hier. Sekunde, ich muss mich kurz umbauen. So, Tastatur hier hin und weiter. Gegner.
Did your husband have any enemies?
He was a politician, Mr. Fordham. Half the city hated him.
Did he ever receive any kind of threats against his life?
None that I was ever made aware of. I have no idea who could have killed him, let alone who could have gotten into his office to do it. He hadn't told me about any meetings or appointments this week either.
Was it his custom to inform you of his work affairs?
Oh, well, I've always taken an interest in my husband's work. He'd often mention initiatives he was working on or people he was meeting, that sort of thing. Nothing sensitive or confidential, you understand. Just conversation about his day.
Motiv.
Can you think of any reason why your husband would have been murdered?
Not really. He was a vocal opponent of the construction of the Gascogne-Chumley Bridge, but I hardly think that would have been sufficient reason to drive someone to murder.
Why is that?
Well, it's just a bridge, isn't it? There are plenty of other ways to get to Chumley.
I meant, why was he opposed to it?
Oh, because the amount of money required to build it is exorbitant. Public funds should be used on roads and buildings that are falling apart. What's the point of having something shiny and new if everything around it is in disrepair?
Ja, das ist allerdings richtig. Dann könnte aber jemand, der für den Bau der Brücke war... könnte Justice Killer ein Auftragsmörder sein?
How are you feeling, Mrs. McDonough?
Scheiße, was für eine Frage.
My husband of 42 years was shot in his office. How do you think I feel?
Scheiße.
Tactful as always, Fordham. How do you do it?
My apologies. Perhaps that wasn't the most appropriate question. Is there anything I can do to help?
You can start by finding the monster who murdered Percival.
Shackley.
Do you know anyone named Shackley?
No, I've never heard that name before. Why?
I saw your husband had a meeting scheduled with him shortly before his murder.
That can't be right. He didn't tell me about that. He always told me about his meetings.
It was written on his office calendar, clear as day.
As I said, I don't know who that person is. Why wouldn't Percival have told me about their meeting?
Why indeed?
Robbie.
Are you familiar with someone named Ruby?
I can't say I am. Who is it?
Just a name that's come up in my investigation.
Sounds like the name of a trollop. Or perhaps a dog.
Okay. Justice Killer noch.
Have you heard of the Justice Killer?
That was the name the police mentioned when they told me about Percival's murder. It's absolutely terrifying to think that one sick person could be capable of such evil. Why is he called the Justice Killer? What justice was done by murdering my husband?
I'm afraid I can't answer that right now, Mrs. McDonough, but I intend to find out. Those are all the questions I have for now, Mrs. McDonough.
All right, Mr. Fordham.
Mhm. Wir gehen mal ins Kaffeehaus drin, reden mit dir kurz.